You are in direct violation of the bylaws. This gate must remain locked.
The easement survey clearly shows our right of access here.
I woke up to a bright red padlock hanging from the dock ramp chain, glinting in the cold morning air like it was laughing at me. The lake was flat, gray, and quiet. My breath made little clouds. I could still smell the burnt coffee I'd rushed through as I jogged down the asphalt path in my flip-flops, tackle box banging against my leg. My boat sat helpless at the end of the dock, tied up for our father-son fishing trip I'd promised for 7:00 a.m. Instead of launching, I was staring at a heavy chain, a new HOA sign, and a tiny printed notice that said access temporarily suspended by order of the board. No warning. No date. Just locked out of my own weekend. Later that morning, still smelling like lake water and cheap coffee, I found the email they'd sent at 11:43 p.m. the night before. Hidden between a landscaping reminder and a reminder about trash cans. It said the HOA was closing the dock ramp for 48 hours for unspecified safety reasons. That line burned me. This is about how the HOA padlocked the dock ramp for 48 hours, then I filed the easement. Because my deed clearly showed I had lake access. The HOA president, Cheryl, our neighborhood Karen with the stiff hair and clipboard, had decided the dock was her new throne. My son sat on the couch with his fishing pole still in his hands and asked if we did something wrong. That was the moment this turned into a fight. I tried to do it the nice way first. I walked up to the clubhouse at 9:00 a.m., the lobby full of cold air and the smell of old carpet and printer toner. Cheryl sat behind the front desk, sipping some fancy latte while the Keurig hissed. I told her the lock blocked my deeded access. I said I had plans, and there was no safety issue, just her control problem. She smiled that tight little smile and said, "The board has decided. You can file a complaint if you like." A couple neighbors walked in behind me, heard her, and instantly stared at the floor. One texted me later that he was scared she'd raise his fines if he backed me up. A week earlier she'd even called the cops on me for walking down to the dock after 10:00 p.m. Timeline item 1 April 5th at 4:27 a.m. false trespass call. That one was still sitting in my head like a rock. By lunch I was shaking with anger, but also very, very done being pushed around. I told my wife I was staying legal. No cutting locks. No yelling matches. Only proper channels. Then I opened my laptop. I pulled my closing papers, zoomed in on the tiny map most people never read. There it was. A recorded easement line right over the HOA ramp. I called the county records office. The clerk put me on hold over the sound of ringing phones and typing. When she came back, she said, "Oh yeah, that easement runs with your lot. They can't block it." At the county office, the file landed with 63 pages. Old plats. Lawyer letters. HOA bylaws they hoped no one would ever read. I lined up photos, emails, and call logs in a binder. My own receipts montage. Patterns of false reports can be prosecuted. I wrote that on a sticky note and slapped it on the cover. The more I dug, the worse it got for Cheryl. I counted 11 separate complaints she'd filed on me in 3 months. Grass too long. Boat trailer parked crooked. Noise at 9:05 p.m. because my kid laughed too loud on the dock. I put the dates into a neat list and highlighted them. Then I filed 2 things on the same day. First, a formal complaint with the City Code Office for obstruction of a recorded easement. Second, a written notice to the HOA attorney, sent certified, saying if the lock wasn't removed by May 3, 2024 at 5:00 p.m., I'd seek damages. I also requested a special hearing with the board, which meant they had to let owners attend. My little trap was simple. I would let Cheryl double down, on camera, in front of the very people she scared the most. The big day came with heavy clouds and sticky air, the kind that makes your shirt cling. The HOA meeting room was full, chairs scraping, people whispering. Cheryl stood at the front with her clipboard, ready to scold us about trash cans. She tried to skip my agenda item. Then the door opened, and in walked the city code inspector and a deputy. The room went dead quiet, except for someone's phone buzzing on a metal chair. I calmly slid my binder onto the front table. The inspector flipped it open, paused on the highlighted map, and then looked up at Cheryl. "This padlock is on a recorded easement," he said. "You have no right to block it." Cheryl's face went the color of a stop sign. She stammered about safety, liability, and board decisions. The inspector pointed toward the back door. We all followed him out like a parade. Down at the dock, the red padlock looked smaller in the daylight, but it was still there, cutting across the ramp chain like a dare. A half circle of neighbors formed on the asphalt. Phones came out. One guy already had his camera on live. The inspector turned to the deputy and said, "If they don't remove this, daily fines start today." The deputy nodded and asked Cheryl, "Are you cutting it, or do you want Public Works to handle it?" She glanced at the phones, at my son standing there with his fishing pole, at my binder under the inspector's arm. For a second I thought pride would win. Then she snapped at the maintenance guy to get the bolt cutters. When the chain dropped, the crowd actually cheered. Someone behind me whispered, "Lock lady finally lost." By that night, a clip of Cheryl standing there with the officer had hit the neighborhood Facebook group and some HOA subreddit. Comments rolled in fast, and none of them were on her side. The authority flip was quick after that. The city sent a letter stating the HOA had violated the easement and warning of future penalties. The board's own lawyer backed me up in writing, saying the lock never should have been there at all. An easement means they cannot block my access path, even if they own the land under it. At the next meeting, the board voted 4-1 to remove Cheryl as president. They also waived 2 bogus fines she'd given me and offered me a credit of $300 on my dues. The deputy followed up on that 4:27 a.m. trespass report and gently suggested she stop calling in every time she saw a shadow move. Remember that sticky note? Patterns of false reports can be prosecuted. She stopped dialing after that. Now the dock ramp is open, the metal rail smooth under my hand when I walk down to the water. My son and I finally had our early morning fishing trip, the air cold and clean, the lake steaming like a cup of coffee at sunrise. A new neighbor I barely knew brought hot chocolate for the kids and quietly said, "Thank you for standing up to her." The board actually smiles at people now. They even asked me to help rewrite the dock rules so they make sense. Cheryl still lives here, but she walks past the ramp fast, eyes straight ahead, no clipboard. The red padlock is gone. In its place is a small sign that says access by easement owners shall not be blocked, by order of the city. Every time I read it, I remember that binder, those 63 pages, and the sound of a chain hitting the ground while the whole neighborhood watched. Please follow for more HOA showdowns like this. Do you think she got what she deserves? Comment below.